What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. You got your app, you got your Google and Alexa home devices, and the video stream is back up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, up on there as well. Again, hopefully you had a good weekend and appreciate you making us a part of your start here. Probably not the best of weekend in terms of some sports out there, right? Probably not the greatest one out there, but we'll get through it. Might be a little bit of a kind of event Monday, but save your beef for tomorrow so you can get that race place one though too, right? So. But what do we got on that good old game plan here for us this morning? We'll talk a little Packers. Packers falling to the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-19. Yes, they had a couple of opportunities at the end there, but a couple more picks. And that's kind of how a lot of these come back, or at least a couple of these comeback comeback attempts have kind of gone for Green Bay's way. But nonetheless, Packers falling to 3-6, and things are not going to get any easier going forward, at least in these next 3 weeks here. We've got the Chargers, who just fell to the Lions in a shootout. Then it's the Lions on a short week for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving already next week. Then you got the Chiefs. Then things get a little bit easier, kind of, sort of here, but whew, yeah. So I'm sure we've got plenty to recap and say about the green and gold yesterday. So we'll get to that coming up here. Also, was not a good day or a good Saturday for Badger football. Another bad loss, ugly loss to Northwestern. This time, 24-10. Badgers. Ugh. Still remaining one game away from becoming bowl eligible at this point. But Northwestern jumping out to an early lead there. Offense couldn't do anything for the Badgers. Then until the second half, then the defense in the second half for the Badgers finally slowing down Northwestern. But it was a little too late. It was a mess. It was a mess on Saturday. Yikes. I mean, what Northwestern and Indiana, you lose to them in straight weeks. 3-game losing streak right now. Heck, it took that epic comeback against Illinois to maybe not make it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-game losing streak right now. Ooh, Nelly. A lot of frustration and anger coming from the Badger football team, players and coaches and such. Hunter Waller was one of them. Very upset and disappointed after the game here. But man, Badgers right now 3-4 in the conference, 5-5 overall. So just 2 more games left for this Badger football team. Home game against Nebraska, and then going up against Minnesota for the battle of the axe there. But we'll talk about that. I mean, when you look at both this Badger football team and this Packer football team, definitely a lot of frustration so far this season with both these teams, maybe for different reasons or different levels there, although there's some similarities to offensive troubles and such. But, maybe I don't know if this is necessarily playing a little devil's advocate or anything like that. But, you know, with Luke Fickell, first year, uh, heading the program, there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot of enthusiasm and maybe for some high expectations. I mean, I could go back to beginning of the season, right before kickoff, and we had a lot of predictions with 2 losses. We even had some predictions with 1 loss and going to the Big Ten championship, winning the Big Ten championship. He kissed that out the door. A couple weeks ago. But you also got maybe some leeway with Luke Fickell, and like during this stretch, you've heard from a lot of fans and people saying, give it a couple years, give it a little bit till he gets his players in and gets his recruits in and all that fun stuff. Whereas if we compare it to the Green Bay side of things, youngest team in the NFL, a lot of inexperience. You look at the receivers and tight ends, and the expectations for some are maybe a little, or I should say the um I don't know if analysis is the right word, but maybe a little bit more of shorter leash when it comes to Green Bay, even though they've got a younger team, inexperienced at the pro level and such. But do you find it like I don't it's not everybody, but I guess what I'm asking is, do you find that some fans out there right now are given a little bit of a longer leash to Fickle and the Badger football team than they are for Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, and this younger team? And do you agree with that? Do you not agree with that? Do you think we should be patient with both programs? Because while yes, I agree, and then this might be where I'm playing a little devil's advocate here. I'm not ready to say Luke Fickle's a bust or that hiring was a bust and was awful and all that sort of stuff. Not saying that. Not saying that. And yes, he's got to get his recruits in and that sort of stuff. But as I was reading some of the stuff over the weekend from some of the beat reporters for Badger football and such, and like Jeff Patrikas was one of them, and I thought he made a good point. He's like, these are the guys. A lot of these guys that came in or transferred, or with the transfer portal and such, they were guys that Fickle and his staff targeted while he was at Cincinnati. So I mean, there are similarities there. These were guys that they already had on their radar. They weren't just like, yeah, let's just pick these guys and bring them on in. So is it, what I'm getting at? Like, it just, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I see it on social, and maybe it's just because I see it on Facebook and Twitter or wherever. Got a shorter leash for Fickle. The reasons are Fickle, Badger football. Let them get the recruits in. Give it a couple years. But when it comes to Green Bay, you got these younger, inexperienced players coming in, but you don't have that leash. You've got people wanting Matt LaFleur's head right now. They want him having his job right now. So what is the difference between the two? Is it maybe just because LaFleur has been around for a few more years, whereas Fickle's heading into year one? Again, I'm just I want to play a little devil's advocate here, because I'm curious to get different responses, because I really feel like, and maybe it's just the louder majority, but there is a shorter leash for Badger football than there is right now for Packer football. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off. And maybe it's just simply because more people pay attention to the Packer football at this point in time. Maybe it's just that case. I don't know. But let's hit that up. We'll hit that up coming up in just a little bit. Bucks hoping to end their 2-game losing streak coming up here with a game against the Bulls tonight. Bucks falling to the Orlando Magic the other night. Damian Lillard has missed the last couple games. Giannis has been doing his thing, at least points wise, and trying to carry the team, but defensive struggles right now. And I think I don't want to panic too much 9 games into the season here for Bucks basketball. But when you bring in Adrian Griffin, who is a noted defensive minded coach, and right now one of your struggles is playing defense, that again, I don't want to panic 9 games into an 82 game season here, but that's a head scratcher there a little bit. Hopefully, as Bobby Portis kind of said after the Magic game, the chemistry's off right now with this team, and hopefully it'll start to kind of develop here very soon. But defensively, is it communication? Is it talking on the floor? Is it spacing? That mindset. But that's definitely one thing that stands out with these first 9 games for this Bucks team is their defensive play. I mean, they're statistically worse than they were last year. And you bring in a defensive-minded coach thinking, okay, and I know losing Drew Holiday it takes a hit, right? It takes a hit on your defensive play. No doubt about it. But this much of a hit, that's probably the one concern I have right now for this Bucks team. Not ready to panic and all that. Obviously, we don't want to, 5-4 starts and all that jazz, but that's one thing that kind of stands out to me so far for this Bucks team has been their defensive play. So, speaking of hoops, Badger basketball falling to Tennessee on Friday nights. So, early tough test for this Badger basketball team. Tennessee coming in ranked 9th in the country to the Kohl Center there, but Badgers, what, 80 to 70 there. Talking a little bit about maybe defense and such, but Badgers will be back at it Tuesday going up against Providence. Yeah, going up against Providence tomorrow night. So we'll see if they can bounce back and pick up that W. Then they got Robert Morris on Friday. Virginia, an interesting matchup with Virginia next Monday, a week from today. So, but Badger hoops going back to that game on Friday for the Badgers there. Yeah, Stephen Krull with 14. My guy that I'm excited to see this year continue to play, continue to develop. AJ Storr, 17 points. The transfer from St. John's over there, he comes in and puts up 17 points for the Badgers. You had 4 Badgers in double figures in terms of scoring. Tyler Wall also contributing 10 over there. Not a lot of production though coming off the bench for the Badgers there, but or good early test. Good early test for the Badgers. So we'll hit that up. We've got JC and the EC Justice Cleveland coming up a little bit later on, where we'll catch up on some of the local stuff, some of the prep stuff. Thorpe falling in the 8-player state championship to Florence. We've got some local teams heading to state football for 11-player football. Rice Lake, Edgar, Stratford. They're all going over there. Blue Golds and Stout ending their football seasons this past weekend. Although we got both Stout and Eau Claire, some cross-country runners going to be going over to the National. Shout out to the Blue Gold men's soccer team. Late last night, some late games over the weekend, but they've advanced to the Sweet 16 as well. And I know we had some hoops starting for the Blue Golds and such. So we'll break it all down with Mr. Justice Cleveland coming up about 7:30 this morning when he hops on for about an hour. We've got studs and duds. So hit us up with your studs and duds with a quick text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line, 715-830-1912, your studs and duds. So, but let's get things going here this morning. Let's get it going here with the leadoff. We'll talk a little football. We'll mix in some Green Bay and some Badger chat with this thing. Both teams falling over the weekend. Packers yesterday afternoon, 23-19. Badgers Saturday falling to Northwestern, 24-10. Both frustrating weekends for Packers and Badger fans, right? Let's hit it up. Let's chat about it. We'll take our first break, and then coming up on the leadoff, we'll hit up some football talk to get your Monday morning going after these quick words. big thanks to everybody who stopped by Friday at Hy-Vee for the Veterans Day breakfast. If I know we had a few of you stopping by the broadcast table to say a quick hi and such, but appreciate you stopping by and saying a quick hi in between breaks and that. But big thank you again to Hy-Vee for hosting that free breakfast for our veterans and those who are still currently serving in the military. I mean, it was a good group over there. It was a constant flow throughout. So big thanks to Hy-Vee for not only doing that and then hosting us there too. But with Veterans Day on Saturday too, was over at the Old Grace Lutheran School for Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity, getting a tour of what they're planning on doing, converting that school into apartments for veterans. So 11 veterans over there, and the plans and everything that they got going, that they're going to have going here for it's amazing to see what they're going to be able to do to help some of our veterans in our area too. So you can see some of the pictures. I posted a couple of them up on my Facebook page. I know Habitat for Humanity's got some more stuff on their Facebook page as well. But just some awesome work that Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity is doing in our area for everybody in need. But we had a couple of events for Veterans Day this for the last couple days there, and it was great to talk to a lot of people and check out all those different events. So thank you to everybody for your support as well out there. So, all right, let's get things going here this morning on the leadoff, chatting a little football here. Packers and Badgers both falling over the weekend. Packers yesterday 23-19. Badger football also falling 24-10 against Northwestern. The second bad loss in a row for this Badger football team. Let's start off things with the green and gold. Jordan Love, 21 of 40, 289, couple of touchdowns, a couple of picks, 2 picks right there at towards the end of the game in the end zone. Aaron Jones, 35 yards rushing. AJ Dillon, 70 yards rushing. 40 of them coming on that long run there. Total 116. Jaden Reed, your leading receiver for the Packers, 5 targets, 5 catches with a touchdown. 84 yards. Luke Musgrave following up with 64 over there. On the flip side, Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett just throwing the ball 23 times, 14 of 23 for $126. But it was because Pittsburgh was having some success running the football, whether it was Warren, whether it was Harris. The Steelers overall, 205 yards rushing, 36 total carries, 205 on the ground. Warren had 101 for an average of 6.7 per carry. Harris, 16 carries, 82 yards for 5.1 average. We looked at, it was like we jinxed it. It was the kiss of death, or maybe it was just straight up look at the quality of the opponent and such. But before this game against Pittsburgh, we're like, hey, Green Bay's run defense actually, playing a little bit better, doing a little bit better of a job of stopping the run. And then boom, you hit up Pittsburgh, who has Harris and Warren, and they just ran the ball down the throat. One of my peeves, at least in the first half, and then they finally switched it up in the second half and such. But one of my peeves with this thing is like, this team is having success running the football, and then you get into the red zone where they're running the football too. Why? Why, oh, why are we having 2 down linemen? Why? Why are we having 2 down linemen? When you're struggling to run, stop the run, but we're having 2 down linemen in it. We're not having the big boys up there. Okay? And I get it. Jair wasn't in the game. You've got 2 very inexperienced corners, matching up with Pickens and Deontay Johnson and such. Okay? Maybe you want to get a little extra coverage in the back end, have another corner out there, have another defensive back out there. Okay, I get to the point, the mindset there. You want to help them out and make sure that, they've got some help out there and some extra protection. But Lord, you just I mean, and I'm kind of calling out Joe Barry on this. I'll just say it. I'm kind of calling out Joe Barry on this, but you welcomed the Steelers to run the football. You welcomed them to do that with two down linemen on a lot of times, especially down in the red zone and that. Finally, you switched it up. It got a little bit better right there, but man, couldn't stop the run again. So I guess maybe we were fooled against Rams and Minnesota and Denver and such over there. So, but yeah, just frustrating, right? It was frustrating to see them not being able to stop the run again. I mean, they held Pittsburgh to just 6 points in the second half after giving up 17 in the first. I mean, the first few drives there, it looked like, holy moly, this defense isn't going to be able to stop the run or stop this offense because they were just kind of moving along. And a lot of it was because of the running game. But and for the most part, at least, the first half and such, and maybe even a little bit in the third quarter. Yeah, I'd say in the third quarter too. I honestly thought, okay, offensively, first 3 quarters ish, I thought the passing game for the Packers was actually one of the best performances, one of the better performances that we have seen from Jordan Love in the pocket the first 3 quarters. I honestly felt that way. It looked like he was collective. It looked like, he was making some deeper throws, taking, a little bit more accurate, making some plays. I thought the first 3 quarters was one of the better passing performances from this offense and from Jordan Love. Packers took the lead in the third, but then, Pittsburgh ends up taking it back and doesn't look back over there. That blocked extra point, you have to wonder, big old what if there. What if? Packers had a couple of opportunities at the end in the fourth, and that's where Jordan Love, something with him and Christian Watson isn't just clicking right now. It's just not clicking. And what did I think I saw a stat here. Yeah, 5 interceptions. This was from Rob Domofsky. So Jordan Love so far this year has a total of 10 picks. He's got 10 picks. Half of those interceptions have come while targeting Christian Watson. And at one point, though, yesterday, Jordan Love was averaging 11.1 air yards per attempt. And he was 5 of 10 for 128 and a touchdown on throws with 10-plus air yards. To compare it, Kenny Pickett was just at 2.4 air yards per attempt. I mean, Kenny Pickett wasn't throwing, he attempted a few deep balls and such, but yeah. So I thought the first 3 quarters from Jordan Love, at least from the passing game, I thought it was one of his most solid performances. I wouldn't say it was eye-popping or amazing or, off the charts. I thought it was solid. And I thought it was, okay, he looks good right now. He looks pretty good. But then it's like, I don't know if it's just straight up him and Christian Watson not on the same page or what the deal is, but that throw, that first pick to Watson in the end zone, it's easier to say it now. Hindsight's 2020, right? We can see the play afterwards, and in the moment, if Watson makes that catch, we're not talking about it. We're not talking about it. But you have to wonder at that point in time, was that the best throw to make? Especially right now when it's pretty obvious that your connection, your chemistry right now just isn't clicking. It's just not clicking right now. And you hope that'll come with time. And I know there's fans already that are jumping off the Christian Watson ship. They're ready to move on. They're already calling him a bust in that. But how many times do we have to say, you guys said, a lot of people said safe stuff about Devontae in a second year. How many of these other guys in their second year? I'm not ready to jump ship off Christian Watson because he's proven he can be a guy. Does he got to get tougher at contested catches? Yes. Does he have to stop with the drops? Yes. All that. It's not to give him a free pass on anything by any means. It's not to do that. But I'm not ready to jump off that wagon or say he's a bust and move on from that. We've been down that before. It's not to say Watson is going to turn out to be the next Devontae, or it's not to say that, it's guaranteed that Christian's going to go out there and, be a consistent 1,000-yard receiver. Is he having a down year, a disappointing year? Absolutely. 100%. But I'm not ready to fold in the entire career on him right now. We've been down that before. We've seen this before. We've seen this before with our own team. But there's no doubt him and Love, something's just not clicking. Something's just not clicking between those two right now. And I don't know if it's, at times is Love trying to force that connection, force that chemistry between him and Watson, maybe. But I think there's some decision-making questions that I think are legit questions surrounding Love when it gets, down to closer to the game when you're trying to make that comeback. You got a couple more minutes left. What he did against the Saints, that was perfect, right? That comeback and that was perfect. But since then, they've had a couple more opportunities to try to do that. Raiders, same thing, pick in the end zone, right? We've had opportunities for these comebacks and just bad decision making with some of those throws when it came to that. That's the down part, because I thought overall Jordan Love was having himself a decent game up until those two picks. Thought he was having a good game up until those two picks. Stretching the ball down the field a little bit more. And it's not going to get any easier for this team, right? You got, what do we got here? We got the Chargers where, oh boy. And, I know the Chargers win-loss record isn't impressive by any means, but I think when you look at this, and you look at this Chargers team, you're like, yeah, offensively, how in the world is this Joe Barry defense going to slow down Justin Herbert, or Austin Eckler, or Keenan Allen, those guys? How are you going to slow them down? They put up 38 points in a loss to the Detroit Lions. One thing is that maybe a little Chargers defense stinks, even though they've got players all over the field on paper, but defensively, they can't stop anybody a lot of these times. But if your offense can't get in a shootout, it might be over with pretty quick. And then it's a short week. You got to get ready for Detroit, and then you got Kansas City after that. I mean, these next 3 weeks, they're going to be a bruiser for this team. They're going to be a bruiser. I think if you could steal one of these, I'd be ecstatic at this point. And maybe your best one is actually against the Chargers coming up here this Sunday at home. And I don't know though. I ain't picking it. I'll tell you right now, I ain't picking that win. But your thoughts, hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Thoughts on the Packers game, and keep it to, we had couple of you, I should say, stuff I can't say on the air. So, I get it. You're venting and that, but say something that I can actually relay on the air. So you can hit us up with that text, or if you want to hit up with the Badger part of it too. And going back to the question I had asked at the beginning, and maybe it's just from what I've seen on the socials and such, but you look at this Badger football team. I mean, 5-5 right now. Offensively, they stink. There's been some venting of the defense, especially in the first half against Northwestern. But you're seeing like okay, you're getting the okay, let Fickle get his guys in, his recruits in. It's let's give it a couple more years here. And I'm not saying I disagree or agree or what. I'm curious to get your reactions, your thoughts on this question I'm going to pose, because I was reading Jeff Patrikas's article, covers Badger football and Badger basketball, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. But he made a point, and I thought it was a fair point, and he addressed the notion that, hey, yes, Fickle, everybody's talking about wait till he gets recruits in, his own recruits, his own guys in and such. But he made a point. He's like, a lot of the guys that they do have in, whether, transfer portal and such, were guys that they had in Cincinnati or they targeted while they were in Cincinnati. So they are kind of guys that Fickle and his staff had targeted or wanted to bring in or had in at one point, and they brought them over to Wisconsin. So it's not like it's straight up. None of these guys are Fickle's guys or Longo's guys or anything like that. But you've got like the leash. Where do you feel like the leash is a little bit longer for Luke Fickle and the Badger football team because they quote unquote don't have all the recruits in, whereas Green Bay, Matt LaFleur has a shorter leash, and is that fair? Because if we look at it from the Green Bay side of things, younger, inexperienced offense. I know there's going to be a few of you that says should be fired just for keeping Joe Barry. That's a different that's a different part of it. We're talking about the success, the wins and losses, and all that stuff. You know what I mean, though? Like, do you feel like Wisconsin fans are giving a little bit of a longer leash to this Badger team than they are for this Packers team, even though the Packers are quote unquote the youngest team in the league, most inexperienced offense in the league? And do you think that's right? Do you think that's right? That they should be getting a longer leash? Badger football. Hunter Waller, Luke Fickle, I thought made kind of an interesting comment the other day after the game. I'll bring it up here really quick before you have to head to break. But he said, yeah, Luke Fickle said he plans to find out this week who wants to be here. Who wants to be here? Whatever that means. I don't know if he's talking about players or if he's talking about some of his coaches. I don't know. But Hunter Waller, the safety was pretty honest, vocal about his team, the way they've been playing. How many guys really do give a blank about the team, about the program, about the culture, about winning and losing, and about each other? A lot of frustration from this Badger team. Let's take a quick break. Then we'll finish up the first hour coming up after these few words. Coming up on Wednesday, we'll be hitting up Ray's Place around noon for a mobile edition of the Man Cave Podcast, a little bit of a hunting episode of the Man Cave Podcast. So we'll head on over to Ray's on Wednesday for some lunch and talk a little hunting with a couple people over there. So if you've got a little bit of a lunch break or such, head on down, grab yourself hot ham sandwich or something like that. And let's chat a little maybe hunting, as we've got the opener coming up this weekend. My list of traditions starting to get checked off. Got to watch, watching Escanaba in the moonlight, 30-point buck song, all that. Does not feel like it should be hunting season coming up this Saturday. I don't know if it's because of the weather and such, but holy moly, can't believe the opener already here. Got all the blaze orange out this weekend and getting that organized and such. But man, don't forget, if you do have any luck, send us those pics so we can put them up on the Tilden Gun trophy board. Speaking of Tilden Gun too, just a quick reminder, if you need anything, head on over this week to Tilden Gun, because they will be closing November 18th to the 26th for deer season this year. So if you need anything, stop on in this week. Got any questions, give them a call, all that good stuff over at our good friends from Tilden Gun. So, all right, we got about 10 minutes to the top of the hour here. I was talking about Hunter Wohler and some of his venting after the game on Saturday. Some of his comments. We came out soft, came out flat. We have zero energy on either side of the ball. We got whooped around the field. We're soft. We're not physical. We're not doing the things coaches ask of us. We go out there and expect to win, and that's not how this game works. There's no perfect call. There's no perfect assignment. There's nothing that coaches could have done differently tonight that would have made us win that game. 100% it's on the players. There's nothing the coaches could have done to fix what happened today. It comes down to want to. How bad do you really want to be a part of this team? How bad do you really want to play this game? How bad do you really want to win? Our backs are up against the wall like they've never been before. How many guys really do give a blank about this team, this program, the culture, about winning and losing, and about each other? The locker room is very tight. We've got a lot of guys that really love being together, love being around each other, but there comes a point where someone has to speak up and be the, let's just say, butthead. Someone has to tell people to stop screwing around and stop going through the motions and play. Otherwise, get out. We don't need people here that aren't going to give their hearts for this team. I think there's some people that are brought in, and we need to get everybody. We need to have everyone on the same page. Even saying there's going to be some weeding out. We've hit rock bottom right now. And when you hit rock bottom, you take a hard, long look at yourself. There might be some weeding out that we need to do, because right now, the things that we have going on, it's not what Wisconsin football is. It's not what Wisconsin football represents. Entered the second half down 24-3. 24-3. Didn't get that touchdown, that garbage touchdown, till what, 10, 11, 12 seconds left in the game there. Whew. Offensively, defensively. I mean, at least defensively, they stepped up in the second half there for the Badgers. But that was, I don't know which one was uglier, to be honest with you, at this point. Indiana or Northwestern. I really don't. I mean, what a whirlwind to just rewind before the season kicked off, days before, even weeks before. The narratives of both of these teams, Wisconsin with the excitement, with the hype, Northwestern with everything going on, Pat Fitzgerald getting fired. A lot of stuff going on within the program. Some people wondering, would they even win a game this year? And now you look at it. Oh, Northwestern Back, I mean, you lose to Northwestern and Indiana in back-to-back weeks. Yikes! What, Northwestern's 5-5 on this year too? I mean, holy moly! That's why they play the game, I guess, as the old saying goes. But who would have thought this at this point in time, with just 2 weeks left to go here? Northwestern would have beaten Wisconsin in Camp Randall. And Northwestern would be third in the Big Ten West. Yeah. I don't know. We'll get to some of your texts, comments, all that good stuff coming up in the next hour, but you can hit us up with that text if you haven't so far, 715-830-1912. I guess we're not going to be having Justice here this morning, so I'll try to do my best in breaking down some of the prep stuff there. I know we've got basketball and hockey on the prep scene beginning here. Well, practice has already begun. I believe boys basketball practice begins this week. But we'll start. We got football that's going to be wrapping up this week. We've got teams heading to state. Thorpe falling in the 8-player state championship to Florence on Saturday. Blue Gold football, Stout football also wrapping up their seasons as well. But Blue Golds do have some runners and teams going to cross-country men's soccer for Blue Gold, also advancing to the Sweet 16. So we'll hit that all up coming up in the next hour. Plus, we're going to talk some Bucks. Bucks fans, are you a little bit nervous, at least at the beginning? 9 games in, they've lost their last 2. Damian Lillard has not played in those 2 games. Giannis has been putting up a bunch of points in those losses. I think the one thing that does concern me a little bit, though, with this Bucks team has been their defensive play. I thought the Bucks would kind of be up and down at the beginning of the season here. But I think probably maybe the biggest surprisement so far for this Bucks team, disappointment, has been the defensive play for this team. You bring in Adrian Griffin, who is known to be a defensive-minded coach, and so far this year we've seen some poor defensive play. We will get to maybe even a little Brewers updates if you want some of the latest rumors surrounding who that new manager is going to be for the Brewers. We've got one new name to be added to the mix here for the Brewers, according to Bob Nightingale at USA Today. So we'll tell you who that is. It is a name. I will say this. It is a name that's you're familiar with. Okay, that you're familiar with. So we'll hit that up coming up in just a little bit. In just a little bit. So we'll hit that up. Plus, get back to some more football talk here as well. Keep your thoughts coming on the Badgers and the Packers. Your thoughts on the losses from both of these ball clubs over the weekend. Do you take anything positive? I don't know if there's really anything positive from the Badgers one, but do you take anything positive from the Packers game? Again, I'm not big on moral victories, but I thought, for the most part, for at least the first 3 quarters, Jordan Love looked pretty solid. I thought he looked a little bit more comfortable throwing the football, a little bit more comfortable throwing the football deep down the field. I thought that was the case, but that fourth quarter with the 2 picks in the red zone there, and I know that last one was just kind of almost like, it was going to be a tough throw to make or a tough play to make anyways, but that one before, it was like, come on. Again, 5 interceptions. Half of Jordan Love's interceptions this year have come while targeting Christian Watson. Those 2 not on the same page right now. Chemistry there is lacking big time. But overall, I thought, again, the first 3, that throw to Romeo Dobbs for the touchdown in the corner, great throw, very accurate, great job by Romeo getting the 2 feet down. So I did think there was some positives from that game. Even though as frustrating as it was, I did think there were some positives there. But we'll see if you guys and gals have anything else for that too. So we'll get to your text coming up just after we do some sports nuggets of the day, brought to you by Ansay Associates. We'll get back to some football talk here as well. Plus, I'll get you that name that is potentially being rumored, a new name potentially being rumored for the new manager for the Milwaukee Brewers. One in, we got a couple more to go here. Stick around. We'll be back after these quick news updates. All right, second hour kicking off on this Monday morning of November 13th. Hopefully, you had a good weekend outside of your favorite sports teams, if they happen to be some of them from Wisconsin out there. But hopefully, you had a good weekend. And you ready to hit up a brand new work week here? Coming up, we'll get back to some more football talk here, both Packers and Badgers. We'll tell you a new name that has emerged as a possible candidate for the Brewers managerial job. I believe, in case anybody wonders, but or is if anybody cares at this point anymore, but I believe, is it today? Council gets introduced as the Cubs manager. I think it's today. Could be wrong, but I thought it was today. It's early part of this week. So, we'll get to that name here just a sec, but I've got some sports nuggets of the day for you for this November day, brought to you by Ansley Associates. The Baltimore Orioles entered Major League Baseball American League this day in 1900. We've got, let's go, Roger Clemens in 1991 won his third Cy Young Award for the American League. Greg Maddux in 1995 became the first pitcher to win 4 consecutive Cy Young Awards. That's about it. Not a whole lot. That's your day. Your sports nuggets of the day, brought to you by Ansay Associates. Remember Cardinals manager Mike Schilt? He is reportedly a candidate for the Padres job. He spent the year with the Padres this past year, and if the Padres don't hire him, if he's not hired, he is according to Bob Nightingale from USA Today, the Brewers have their eyes on him as a possible managerial candidate. If you remember Mike and his few years with the Cardinals, 2018 of 41 and 28, 2019 91 and 71, 2020 30 and 28, and his final year 2021 90 and 72. That was his managerial record over there. So Bob Nightingale also noted that the Brewers are strongly considering promoting their bench coach Pat Murphy. One of the names that was potentially rumored to be a Brewers target is no longer a Brewers target, as Joe Espada, who is the bench coach for the Astros, he is going to be the new manager for the Astros. They're promoting him to manager. So take that name off a potential list. He was a name that was, I think, almost on every single list out there that was rumored to be with the Brewers. So take that one. I don't know of a timeline. I haven't heard, haven't seen a rumor or a note on it anywhere. But you know, I me as a fan, I would like to know right away, because we all get antsy and we all get anxious and we want to know who that next coach is going to be, right, or the new next manager is going to be. But from a business side of things, I also want Matt Arnold and the Brewers to cast a wide net and hopefully get the right manager over there. And I don't know who that is going to be. I think it's going to depend so much on what their plan's going to be in this offseason. I think if you hire a veteran manager, I don't know if you can go through a whole rebuild unless, like Brandon mentioned it on Friday, unless you bring in maybe an up and coming guy to be like your bench coach or part of the organization there too. Like, Ricky Weeks' name has been mentioned. Maybe you bring in a veteran manager and have Ricky kind of learn behind him a little bit. I don't know. I really don't know where the Brewers are going to go, because we've seen names that have been veteran guys, a lot of years in the leagues, been managers at some point, and we've seen names that there's like no experience or very little experience there. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And I don't really have a good gauge. And honestly, I don't know if I have like a number one, wish list type of coach or manager. I don't know if have a number one, because I really don't know the direction or what their plan's going to be this offseason. I don't know. And I think that's a huge factor into this whole thing. All right. So that's your name. We'll keep you posted if anything else happens to pop up while we're on the air. Before we get back to some more football chat here between the Badgers and the Packers here a little bit. Hoops talk. Bucks are back in action tonight as they look to end their 2-game losing streak that they're currently on right now. These last couple games here, the Bucks have not had Damian Lillard as he's dealing with a calf issue over there, and Giannis has been trying. He's been trying to carry this team offensively, at least. We went back to that Pacers game when he dropped 54 points, wasn't enough. Orlando, he goes out there, 35 points, struggled from the charity stripe though, 5. And it wasn't enough. A 112-97 loss for the Bucks there. Middleton playing 20 minutes, just putting up 10. Cameron Payne though was your second leading scorer for the Bucks in that game. Excuse me, with just 14 points. He got to start. Bobby Portis came off the bench and contributed 13 points here. But I think if there's one thing that if a concern, and I know some will probably say a second scorer when Damian isn't out there, or maybe when Giannis isn't out there, so your third option, it's supposed to be Middleton, but they're still working him back into, I guess, game shape here at this point. Just 20 minutes against Orlando. But I think, one thing that stands out to me so far is the defensive play from the Milwaukee Bucks. They're statistically worse than they were last year. They bring in Adrian Griffin, who's supposed to be a defensive, minded coach. Yes, losing Drew Holiday is going to take a big hit on your defense. It's going to take a hit, but I think it's maybe and it just could be something as simple as they're still developing that chemistry, as Bobby Portis mentioned after the Orlando game, right? It was, he kind of said chemistry isn't quite there yet. Hopefully it'll get there soon. Hopefully it'll start to kind of mesh, and you kind of wonder if, when you hear chemistry, you probably think instantly offensively, but defensively, is it the communication? Is it the switches? Is it the spacing? Because right now, when you look at it, points allowed, Bucks are 25th. Bucks are 25th. Defensive rating, they're 28th. This is according to lineups.com. I mean, the only thing that they have been decent at has been steals, which they're 13th in the league right now. That's it. I mean, rebounding, defensive rebounding, where are they at on this list here? Sorting it out. 19th. So Minnesota is actually number one in terms of points allowed. The Timberwolves. Shout out to the Timberwolves over there. Number one. But you'd like to see a more consistent, a better defensive performance, better effort so far here from the Bucks. Bucks are back at home where they've won. Of their 5 wins so far in the season, 4 of them have come at home. They're 4-1 at home this year. The Bulls coming in 4-6 on the season. They are just 1-3 on the road. So we'll see if Damian Lillard is going to be able to give it a go tonight. Obviously, that makes a big difference offensively when he's out there on the court. Gives, the 1-2 punch. We've seen Giannis these last couple games. He's been trying to fill in the gaps and doing it all offensively. But when you're playing poor defense, that ain't going to help you out a whole lot, right? It's not going to help you out a whole lot. So, but yeah, got to see that better defensive performance coming up here soon. And a little bit more offensive help, too, besides Giannis and Damian, consistently. Hopefully, Middleton can really get back into that game shape where they can increase his minutes, and then he can be that third option, that third leading or that third scoring option for this Bucks team, because That's something that I think they need on a consistent rate. Once in a while, you get it from Brook Lopez, and I love Brook Lopez. I'm a big Brook Lopez fan. But I think we're looking for that consistency from that third leading scorer. It's not going to be Beasley. Beasley's once in a while going to get you, a good game, stay hot from the three and such. Bobby Portis going to come off the bench and give you double-digit scoring once in a while. But they need a third consistent scorer with this team. When one of those guys, like a Giannis or a Dame, either has an off night or they can't go because of injury. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll get to some of your texts about Badgers, Packers, all that fun stuff. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, let's get back to a little more football chat here this morning. Before that, though, quick reminder, don't forget with the opener deer season coming up this Saturday. If you're looking for somewhere, maybe if you have any luck to where you get a deer and such, and you're like, okay, where do I take it? Where do I go? Where do I get it processed? Where do I get it caped if you get a monster? Mike Star Market right here in Eau Claire. I was just visiting with them on Friday. They made another donation to Backyard Dreams. Big thanks to Mike Star Market, $500 donation to Backyard Dreams there. But let's talk a little bit about with deer hunting and such coming up here. But they'll cape it too for your taxidermy if you get a big one over there. Stop on in. Check out all the different things that they can do for your venison. You can also check them out on their Facebook page or their website. But I picked up some new brats. They're Bloody Mary brats. Made them up last night. Very good, very good. They're beer and cheese curd one. The wife had the pumpkin pie ones over there. Plus, they've got some dill pickle snack sticks, pepperoni pizza snack sticks that I picked up for hunting this upcoming weekend too. So if you're heading over to deer camp and maybe need to load up, either for some snack sticks or some meats for some meals, Mike Star Market in Eau Claire, good friends over there. And again, big thanks to Mike's for the donation and the support for Backyard Dreams. All right. We got a couple of texts to catch up on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line here. We've got this is from Bob. Bob is saying, I don't quite understand why some fans are willing to give Luke Fickell and Badger football more of a pass than what they're willing to give Matt LaFleur and the Packers this year. As you kind of mentioned, Luke Fickell will be getting some more recruits coming in, but he also, the guys that he brought in from his transfer portal are guys that he had targeted while he was at Cincinnati. Why does he and his staff get a free pass for this year while everybody seems to be just ruthlessly, that's a big word, ruthlessly hard on Matt LaFleur and the Packers? I'm curious to hear why some feel that way. Well, that's kind of a question I threw out there, Bob. So we'll see if we get any other thoughts on that. We've got Travis, not the Honorable Travis, different Travis here. I'm sure this Travis is honorable too. Travis with a quick text. I agree with you. I thought Jordan Love looked pretty good in the first three quarters. Looked like he was a little bit more confident, actually throwing the ball down the field with some success. But that fourth quarter, again, targeting Christian Watson and throwing picks in the end zone. What is going on with those two? I don't know what's going on with those two necessarily, Travis, but I think one thing's pretty evident right now. Something's going on with the chemistry. It's just not there at this point. And I guess before I get too far into it, another texter earlier, this was from Eric saying, I'm already seeing people jumping off the Christian Watson bandwagon. Do people not remember Davante Adams his first 2 years? And kind of highlighted that a little bit earlier. And I know Christian Watson's dad was already on Twitter putting up the first 2 years, the stats of Davante Adams' first 2 years, and supporting his kid and such, and to an extent he's right. This isn't to say that Christian Watson is going to be the next Davante Adams, and it's not to say that Christian Watson is going to go out there and be 1,000-yard receiver after this year and put up Davante Adams like numbers. It's not to say that every receiver, after a first couple years here just goes and, bounces back. You know what I mean? We don't know. We won't know until the next coming years here. But the point is that I'm not ready personally to jump off the Christian Watson ship. We've seen him in his rookie year be a very good player, be a threat, somebody that you can utilize within this offense. And for whatever reason, we just haven't seen it this year. We haven't seen it this year. Is it the sophomore slump? Once in a while, we've seen that with second-year guys coming in. Is it that? Maybe. Is it just, Watson and Love still trying to nail this thing down, still trying to figure out their timing and their connection, maybe. I know some people have been thrown out there that, Christian Watson and his effort, questioning his efforts and all that. I it's so hard to see that on film and that and try to come to a conclusion with that, but I'm not ready to give up on Watson. I think when I look at both Watson and Romeo Dobbs, Romeo Dobbs, I said it at the beginning of the year. I'm like, this is going to be a dude. He's going to be a dude. Like, he is just going to be a stud. And he's got 6 touchdown catches this year. But, 343 yards, 33 catches. Are those dude numbers? No, they're not dude numbers. And maybe he hasn't shown up consistent. I mean, you're looking at, his yards, receiving yards the last few games, and not a lot of catches. I mean, you're talking this last game against Pittsburgh, 5 targets, 3 catches, 31. Rams, 3 targets, 3 catches, 36. Minnesota, 9 targets, 4 catches, just 18 yards. Denver, 5 targets, 2 catches, 30. Raiders, 4 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. Those aren't dude numbers. But again, I'm not ready to close the book on him either. And maybe it's just simply that it's that sophomore slump. Are they hitting a little bit of that wall? Hopefully they can bounce back from it. But in the meantime, with these guys kind of having, do we want to say down years or slower years, or maybe these seasons where we expected a second year jump from Watson and Romeo. They're the leaders. They're really the guys that only have all the experience in this very young and inexperienced room that, a lot of us, I was one of them. I was looking for Romeo to have a big year this year. Christian Watson maybe having, another solid year or taking it up a step, and we just haven't seen it. But on the flip side of all that, I guess, if we're looking for a positive thing, has been Jaden Reed in a rookie year has looked pretty good. Dontavian Wicks has had some nice moments, made a nice play yesterday. Musgrave is getting some opportunities, although I feel like, and maybe it's just because of the throw, where he's got to go up and get it and reach for it. But there's a few times when Luke Musgrave makes big catches down the seams or around the sidelines, seems like the big man just kind of like tumbles over. One of these days, I would just like a throw to him where he could run with the football instead of like maybe trying to reach up for it and then fall into the ground or something like that. One of these times, I would like Luke Musgrave just to get a ball thrown to him, a 15, 20-yard throw to him on the seam, on the run, where he can maybe utilize some of that speed and the height there. Just haven't quite gotten to see that yet. It just seems like every time he catches that ball, he's tumbling over. Big man fall hard, right? But we're seeing Jaden Reed go out there and putting up some numbers. We've seen, I mean, yesterday, your top 3 leading receivers were all rookies. All rookies. Jaden Reed, 84 yards. Musgrave, 64 yards. Dontavian, 51 yards. And when you look at it, Jaden Reed, 5 targets, 5 catches. Luke Musgrave, 4 targets, 2 catches. Dontavian, 4 targets, 3 catches. Romeo Dobbs, 5 targets, 3 catches. Christian Watson, 7 targets, 2 catches. You had the 2 picks. You had a drop pass from Watson. For whatever reason, it's just those 2 haven't gotten it going here. It hasn't been clicking. But I guess, again, if there's the one positive thing is that some of these rookies are kind of stepping in, filling in the hole a little bit here. I really like Jaden Reed at the beginning of the year. I thought he could be a guy that you can utilize in a lot of different ways, outside, inside, maybe even lining up in the backfield and putting him out in motion. And so far this year, the man is 417 yards receiving with 4 touchdowns. Right now, I mean, if you had to say who's your number one receiver for the Packers, is it Jayden Reed? And that's not a knock on Jayden Reed. But is it just, I would say it's probably Jayden Reed. First, I'd probably say the Packers don't have a number one wide receiver in the sense of if you're saying a number one type of receivers like a Justin Jefferson, a Devontae Adams, a Tyreek Hill, or anything like that. They don't have that guy. But if you had to, I guess, kind of rank them, Jayden Reed probably number one at this point in time. I mean, you've got Tyreek and AJ already over 1,000 yards receiving. If you want to look at it, where is so really? Oh man, do I got to go to the next page? That can't be right. Trying to see like rankings wise where they're all at here, but yeah, Green Bay obviously does not have a top. Yeah, Jayden Reed's 53rd in the league. That's your highest receiver right now in terms of receiving yards. Jayden Reed, number one for Green Bay, but it's 53rd, 53rd across the league. Yeah. So, but G-Man, Packers will win the rest of their games. So I hope the ever optimistic G-Man there. Wisconsin will win the rest of their games, and the Bucks will win tonight. And we should just wait it out for Bucky on Wisconsin. And and the Pack is a very young team. That is awesome. Way to go, Mike's Star Market. So, I'm not quite sure. It says all Packers and Badger fans have legitimate opinions. Is that the right way, or is it supposed options? I'm not sure. Reed passes the eye test for me. I like Jayden Reed a lot. I hope he can continue to get better or more consistent there. But I think he could be. I think he could be a good player. That's maybe one of the positives to come out this year is these rookies getting a ton of experience right now. But all right. What else do we got here? No, we don't need to take a quick break. We got it. Let's catch up on a few more texts here. Jake saying with the Packers, Jordan Love definitely played a very consistent game through the first three quarters. Don't quite understand why him and Watson don't have that connection. Didn't they spend a lot of time working out in the offseason? They spent some time working out, I think, in the offseason. I don't know if it was as much as him and Romeo Dobbs, but again, workouts in the offseason, not to downplay them and such. A lot of it's in shorts, and you're not, working up against a corner or physical or anything like that. Yeah, I hope it comes in time. But it's definitely it's got to be frustrating between those two. And it's definitely frustrating with the coaching staff. And I think that's maybe one thing Matt LaFleur could probably do, or maybe the offensive staff could probably do, is, okay, try to maybe put in some plays, put in some routes that, you start to gain some confidence or gain that chemistry and connection between Love and Watson. But on the flip side is like, you had one yesterday, a little crosser there, and Watson drops it. I mean, so you got to make plays when you get those opportunities over there. This is from Greg. Greg saying that I thought Love did play fairly well yesterday through the first half. But those red zone fourth quarter throws to Christian Watson, why does he always seem to target Christian Watson in the end zone? I don't know if he just straight up focuses on. I mean, a couple of those that pick in the end zone, the first one to Watson there was eerily similar, if not the same, as the one with the Raiders game when he threw that interception end zone, right? The sideline there. I mean, it's easier if he makes the catch. We're not talking about it. But when you look at it, was that the best option? Probably not. Do you force it in that situation? No. Not the greatest decision from Love to make that throw. If it's a little bit higher, a little bit deeper, where Watson can maybe utilize his height? Does he make the play? Maybe a little bit better. But that's definitely something that has stuck out this season so far, hasn't it? Is just him and Love not on the same page in the end zone. And that's one of the things too. You'd like to see Watson be a big threat in the end zone because he's got that speed, because he's got the height, 6'4". You'd like to see him be a threat in that end zone. Or even a Luke Musgrave being a threat in the end zone. More consistent. And I know fans and players and coaches are tired of the inexperienced and young narrative that surrounds these guys. They are. All right, let's take a quick break and then we'll finish up the second hour with some more texts. We'll get to Mark, Dustin, Doug, John, and who else do we got there? We got another. Is that Craig? I don't know why I said Greg there first. Sorry, Craig. We'll get to your text coming up here, but we got to take a quick break. Then we'll finish up the second hour. Don't forget studs and duds. Who's your studs and duds? Let us know. Hit us up with some text, tweets, Facebook messages, all that good stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes. It's getting close to that time of year where you're going to be having a bunch of people in your home, maybe even next week with Thanksgiving. You got Christmas coming up next month already. So you want to make sure your home is up to snuff with all those family and friends gatherings we got coming up in the next month, a little over a month or so. So one of those areas that you need to probably upgrade in your home is the flooring in your home. Maybe with an amazing brand new carpet, some luxury vinyl planks or tile. I mean, just imagine your new that room. You probably have a room, maybe even a couple rooms in your home that could use some new flooring. So close your eyes here for a little bit. Do a little meditation here. Not if you're driving, though. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. Pull over to the side and then maybe close your eyes over there. But imagine maybe that living room with that new carpet or man cave with some awesome new luxury tile down there and making your family and friends incredibly jealous when they come over to your house for either some, Christmas meals, Christmas get-togethers and such. So you want that to happen? Stop daydreaming. Make it happen. Head on over to Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center, right here in Eau Claire. The incredible team will help you find that perfect floor that will make your family and friends incredibly jealous. It'll look awesome in your home. And the best part, it fits within your budget because they will even match or beat the competition. The team at Carpet City Flooring Center is like one big happy family. And since they're getting ready, or since we're getting ready to be spending a lot of time with family and friends in the coming weeks and days and maybe even months, why wouldn't you want to work with a team that is just like a big family over there too? Because that's what they are. They're a big family over there. So stop on over to Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. All right, let's catch up on some text here. Eric saying, I'm calling out all you Badger fans who are um, sticking up for Luke Fickell and this team this year and just continue to say they've got recruits coming in, they've got guys coming in. How is that any different than a young and inexperienced team like the Packers? You'll back up Luke Fickell because you like Luke Fickell, and you'll diss the Packers because you don't like Matt LaFleur for some reason. You can't have it both ways. They're in similar situations right now. An inexperienced quarterback for the Packers trying to gain some experience. He's throwing to guys that have no experience besides two guys who played last year. Give it a break, calm down, and let's see what the future holds. Okay, that's from Eric. This one is from Craig. Craig saying, I'm glad you brought up this Packers and Badgers comparison here. I don't understand why some fans are willing to give a longer leash to the Badgers than they are with the Packers. Like you mentioned, a lot of these transfer guys came from either Cincinnati or were guys that Luke Fickell and his staff had targeted before in their previous jobs. They brought them in. It was their choice. They're underperforming. So isn't that related to coaching? Just like fans say about the Packers and this team. What's the difference? Okay. Another texter also saying here too. Interesting conversation between Badgers and the Packers with their long leashes over there. I can see similarities in a lot of ways here. With the Badgers, new coaching staff coming in, have they coached below expectations? Absolutely. Packers, the only difference is that their coaching staff has been around for a few more years, but they definitely do have a younger staff. Definitely some similarities, something to ponder on. Another text here. This is from David, just trying to catch up on some of the text here. David also saying that everybody should just slow their roll down for both of these teams. Anybody who had high expectations for the Badgers and Packers, you're just setting yourself up for failure. I understand wanting your teams to do well every single year and always win every single game, but let's be real here. That doesn't happen. Badgers had a new coaching staff and a bunch of new players in, yet people expected them to win the Big Ten championship. Get real. Packers had a bunch of new guys coming in on the offensive side, especially, and they instantly thought that they should be conference champions and getting into a playoff spot. Simmer down, everybody. Okay. All right. I like it. Going to another texter here. This is from Ben. Ben, I'm sick and tired of seeing people always quote Jordan Love's statistics, aka box score scouting, and coming up with their opinions based off that. He had a pretty good, solid game yesterday up until that fourth quarter, stretching the ball down the field a little bit more. How many times did his guys drop a football, and that directly affects Jordan Love's completion percentage? I am sick and tired of hearing about completion percentage, completion percentage, and not hearing more about his receivers dropping the football. One is, actually a Facebook, message over here saying, "I agree with you. I thought Jordan Love looked pretty solid in his first 3 quarters there, but, definitely question some of the decision making when it gets down to crunch time. Hopefully, that's something that he can improve on and this team can improve on as they continue to grow together." Please, for the love of all that is good, Packers fans, let's just be a little bit patient. I know it's hard and we want to see our teams succeed, but please let's have a little more patience. This one is another message coming through here on the social medias, Facebook over there, regarding the Badgers and Packers comparisons. Definitely a lot of similarities going on between the two. You look at the Badgers and their awful defense in the first half, but played better in the second half, and then the non-existent offense for the Badgers the last couple weeks. Compare it to a Packers very inexperienced offense. You can definitely see a lot of experiences. I don't quite understand why Badger fans, or I guess maybe it's not just Badger fans, but it's all Wisconsin fans. But anyways, I don't quite understand why a lot of people are willing to give a longer leash to the Badgers than they are with the Packers. It's like the Packers have a brand new team, especially on the offensive side of things, but they're not willing to it give them the benefit of the doubt there. So, all right. Ooh, all right. We got quite a few texts coming in there. I like it. Keep them coming. All right. Keep them coming here. I agree with the completion percentage thing. You know, there was a thing that was this past week I saw from the national sense where was it Robert Sala I think brought up, but I remember Mike Smith also bringing this up. Mike Smith used to be the linebackers coach, outside linebackers coach for the Packers. He's with Minnesota right now, but he talked about how sacks are one of the most overrated stats. They don't tell the whole story. He was looking at pressure rates and all that, and I know Robert Saleh brought that up again. I think it was this past week. I think it was Robert Saleh with the Jets and such, but, talk about how sacks are an overrated, statistic, and they don't tell the whole thing, and I feel like completion percentage kinda does that too, in a sense, because, it doesn't factor in drop balls from your receivers. Doesn't factor that stuff in. Is there a perfect stat in the world? Probably not. There probably isn't a perfect stat in the entire world, and I think that's why when you see these numbers, when you see statistics and you look at it, you gotta look a little bit deeper. You gotta look a little bit more like, "Oh, okay, so, Jordan Love was 21 of 40, barely over 50%. How many drops did those receivers have? Where was he at on that?" I mean, if you have a simple crossing route to Christian Watson where you're picking up an easy 8, 9, 10 yards and he drops it, is that Jordan Love's fault? Is that Matt LaFleur's fault for a horrible play call? If the guy's there and he has his hands on it, it should be a catch. Is that a bad play call from Matt LaFleur? No, it's not. It's not. If the guy literally drops it, it's not his fault for that play call. It's the receiver's fault for not catching the ball. So I think when we look at all these statistics and these numbers and we base conclusions off of that, gotta look a little deeper. You gotta look at the bigger thing. And on the flip side too, some of those touchdown throws or big plays, big passing plays, It's not always just the quarterback too. Sometimes you got to give a little credit to the receiver, especially if it's a ball thrown up in traffic and that guy comes away with the ball after, with 2 defenders on him. Give a little love to the receiver or the cat or the pass catcher for making the play on that. Might not have been the greatest throw in the world, but give a little credit to the receiver too. That's why I don't always like looking at box scores, and I don't like people when people use box scores to make arguments because it doesn't tell the whole thing. It doesn't tell you about the story. It doesn't tell you about the game or what went on with the game. Definitely, though, with that Packers defense yesterday, you can probably come away with the conclusion that that run defense, even though that they were better in the last couple of weeks prior to the game yesterday, that she struggled a little bit. She struggled a little bit yesterday. Warren, 101 yards, 6.7 per carry. Najee Harris, 82 yards, 5.1 per carry as a team, and that factors in Kenny Pickett scrambles and that. But as a team, the Steelers, 5.7 yards per carry was their average. And the thing that to me, what was just kind of my bugaboo that I noticed in the first half quite a bit was the 2 down linemen. It was like for the most part, even in the red zone, 2 down linemen trying to stop the run. I mean, I'm assuming that the Packers were having an extra defender in the backfield because they had no Jair Alexander, and so they would play a lot of nickel and dime, to try to help out their inexperienced corners. I'm assuming that was the thought process there. But when the Steelers are having so much success and having wide gaping holes, it took until what halftime to change that. Here's a nugget from Rob Domofsky here. The Packers allowed 3.6 yards per rush before contact per ESPN stats and info. 3.6 yards per rush before contact, before getting touched, before getting hit. You're almost picking up 4 yards. That was the Steelers' second most in the last 3 seasons, and before that game, according to Rob Domofsky, the Steelers entered that day 2 yards per rush before contact, which was 28th in the league. Means they weren't good at that. And that's, Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, was under a lot of fire, under a lot of fire this year for some of his play calls. Gotta give him credit. He did a good job yesterday taking advantage of what Joe Barry was calling out there. You're gonna play 2 down linemen? All right, we're just gonna keep pounding the football. We're gonna keep running the football. And it worked. It absolutely worked. That's the type of nuggets we're looking at. Those tells you a little bit more of that story there. All right. Shot clock's going to cut us off. We got studs and duds coming up just past 8 o'clock. A few of you texting in your studs and duds. So thank you for that. We'll get to that coming up here in just a few minutes. Plus, maybe get back to some hoops talk. Badger basketball Friday night falling to Tennessee. We'll be back at it tomorrow night, though, too. Early goings of this Badger basketball season. Bucks also in action tonight. We'll get back to some more football chat as well. But we'll lead things off with some studs and duds. Coming up after these quick news updates. Third and final hour, kicking off right now on this Monday. I was going to say Thursday morning. I'm ready for the opener. I think this weekend, Monday morning before the deer hunting opener coming up this weekend. Here, appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. We'll get back to some more football talk here this morning. If you want, you can hit us up with some text at 715- 830-1912. We got a few on Facebook. We've got to get to as well. But let's do some studs and duds here this morning. I'll go through a few of your studs and duds first. Big thanks everybody who sent over your studs and duds. I always like it when you guys play along with our little games that we got going on over here. Studs: Joshua Dobbs, quarterback, Minnesota. Honestly, I'm going to try to limit my studs and duds when I do these on Mondays to just one apiece. He was definitely on the short list for mine. But again, Joshua Dobbs, 268 yards passing, 1 touchdown, Minnesota picking up the win over the Saints yesterday. So, yeah, good stud. Duds: the Ravens losing to the Browns yesterday. Guess you can almost make a stud for the Browns if you wanted to a little bit. Studs: 49ers came out and dominated the Jaguars. Duds: the Atlanta Falcons losing to the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. Just this person's going with a dud. Dud: Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher sounds like, getting let go from Texas A&M. Duds: the Big Ten. I don't understand their suspension with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. Yeah, I know it's going to be a court thing now to see if, they can put a stay or get him back on the sidelines here, but he can be with the team and everything leading up to the game just can't be on the sidelines here for the next couple of weeks. It's a bunch of drama-filled things going on right now. We got some more studs to get to here. Studs, excuse me. Studs, they're going another pick here for Joshua Dobbs. Studs: Detroit Lions dropping 41 points yesterday. Studs: Raiders beating the Jets. Okay, maybe you're I don't know if you're a Raiders fan or maybe you're a Jets fan. I don't know, but okay. My studs and duds. Let's get to it. So I've got one stud and I got one dud. I'm surprised nobody said this for a stud. I'm going CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans as my stud. The Texans picking up a 30-27 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, a Bengals team that was playing incredibly well the last couple of weeks here. Everybody's like, Joe Burrow's back, defensive coordinator for the Bengals, should be a head coach next year. And the Texans coming in now 5-4 on the season. CJ Stroud, 356 yards. Probably like a lot of people who are maybe not on the Jordan Love train. Be like, see, you got a rookie quarterback doing this. Look at his receivers. What, Noah Brown? What was his leading receiver yesterday? You got Tank Dell over there. Who? Right? But CJ, let's start off with CJ. I put the Texans overall, but you got a couple I want to highlight here. CJ Stroud, for the season he is having as a rookie quarterback, 15 touchdowns, 2 picks. Now there's some discussion. Not only should he be the offensive rookie of the year, but should he be in the MVP conversation? I mean, if the Texans make the postseason this year, I think you legitimately have to have CJ Stroud as a part of the MVP conversation. He won't win it because voters won't vote for him. He may get some. Majority of the voters won't vote for him, though, because he's not on the best team or he's not on one of the best teams. It was kind of the J.J. Watt one from a few years ago when it was between him and Rodgers. Texans didn't make the postseason. Rodgers got it. I don't know if the Texans would have made the postseason, if it would have made a complete difference, but that was one of the main reasons why Watt didn't win it. Now, if the Texans make the playoffs, I'm curious to see where that vote goes if CJ Stroud continues this path. But there's no doubt about it. And then when you go back and we rewind it leading up to the draft process, CJ Stroud's going to drop. CJ CJ's gonna, drop down there and not be a good quarterback because he's from Ohio State. Texans still picked him at number 2, and he's having a fantastic year. And then D'Amico Ryans, first-year head coach for the Texans. Came into a situation, the last couple years was just a blank show for this Houston Texans team, right? I mean, just a complete mess. Caldwell, what was the coach name from a couple years ago? The special teams guy from the Ravens, like nobody had heard of because it seemed like nobody wanted the Texans job. So he gets it for a year. And then Lovie Smith gets it for a year. And it's like, what in the world is going on? The whole Deshaun Watson thing with the Texans, it was just a mess down there. D'Amico Ryans comes in, they're buying in. He's got this franchise turning a corner. Got a quarterback, got a head coach. They're 5-4. Studs right now, Texans. The Houston Texans. Absolutely. My duds, or I should say my dud on this one. I'm going to go with the Patriots. Yesterday they were in Germany. They lost to the Colts 10-6. And it's a mess over there. Now I know there's people talking about, is Bill Belichick going to get fired? Are they going to leave him in Germany? I'd be shocked if Bill Belichick gets fired in the season, in the middle of the season. I wouldn't be surprised. Like right now, if I had to make a prediction that probably won't come to fruition, but I feel like it would be one of those at the end of the season. It'll be a mutual agreement that Bill Belichick won't be back. Maybe as an advisor, maybe stays as an advisor. I can't see Bill coaching anywhere else, but never say never, I guess, at this point. But I think I don't think, I know I think it was a discussion at the beginning of the year. Would Bill Belichick break Shula's record as most wins by a coach? And I think with the way things are going this year, I don't think he's going to get there. He needs 28 more to tie him. Okay, he needs 28 more to tie, 29 to overtake him. He's sitting at 300 right now. I mean, he would have to, let's say, I guess if he were to coach 4 more years, he on an average of if he does 4 more years and he's got to average at least 7 wins per season, that still might be a tough task. I know there was a rumor about the Commanders and such, but I guess if that's incredibly important for Belichick to break, he's 71 years old. He'll be 72 in April. If that's still incredibly important for Bill to break, I can see him maybe going to another team and trying to break that. Would the Commander's job do that though? I don't know. But right now it's not good with the Patriots. You had Bill O'Brien freaking out on the sidelines with Mac Jones and maybe kind of having flashbacks. Didn't him and Brady do that at one point? Then you had the fake spike from Bailey Zappi and then turned into a pick. I mean, it was yuck. It wasn't good. And right now, you're looking at the Patriots. They might actually have a new quarterback. They might be I mean, they got the Giants coming up here. Giants are in a free fall. They should be able to win that one. But you never know. Then it's the Chargers. Then it's the Steelers. Then it's the Chiefs. Who knows with the Broncos. Then the Bills. And then they finish up with the Jets. Maybe with Rodgers. Maybe not. But I got to go with my duds. Right now, it's the Patriots. Speaking of which, if you weren't watching the game last night, apparently Aaron Rodgers told Melissa Stark that the goal is for him to be back middle of December here. He's eyeing that middle of December return, which in typical Rodgers fashion here, last week he goes out there, because the mic catches him telling, who was it, Derwin James, hopefully a few weeks, or, I'll be back in a few weeks or something like that. And then he follows it up by saying, "No, no, no, it's going to be a little bit yet, not putting a timetable on it. It's going to be, we got hurdles to clear and all that." And then he comes out and says, "Ah, yeah, middle December." It's like, dude, what really? I mean, you just like complained to everybody. You vented towards everybody. Say, "No, no, no, it was just in jest. It was tongue in cheek and I've got many hurdles to clear." Then you go on and say, "Yeah, middle December." It's like, dude, you're all over the place. Um, I still can't see it. I'm not a doctor. Dr. Crow, that's why we have him on. There's no way I can see this happening. And if you're the Jets, and I get it, maybe if you're like still in a playoff spot, you get a little antsy, you throw him out there. You throw him out there though with that offensive line on a guy who won't be able to scramble, a guy who is notorious for holding on to the football, waiting to the very last second to try to make a play. You want to throw that guy out there with that Achilles? You do that and something happens, oh, you're in a world of hurt. Honestly, I feel like the best thing here for the Jets would be is to, hey, don't win any more games so you don't have to force the issue with Rodgers. Because if you I don't like what's their schedule coming up here if you're the Jets. They've got okay, the Bills and the Dolphins for the next 2 weeks. Oh yeah, they got that Black Friday game. I forgot they're doing that this year. Okay, so let's say they lose those games. Bills, Jets, they're down to 4-7. Then you got the Falcons December 3rd. Then the Texans. I mean, that one might be a little bit different here. But I mean, if you've got 8, 9 losses by that Dolphins game, which is middle December, is it worth it bringing Rodgers back at that point? I feel like you're almost like that way you're not forcing the issue with him. Just, I, oh, why would you? I don't know. There's still part of me that has this doubt in my mind that a 40-year-old, soon to be 40-year-old, I think next month, is like on this historic pace, this record pace of an Achilles tendon injury recovery. I have my doubts on this. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll get back to some more football talk coming up and some hoops talk as well after these quick words. Hunters, don't forget, getting things rounded up for deer camp Friday night this weekend. Got to get the food, got to get the clothes, got to get your gear. Don't forget about the beer, though, too. All right, Man Cave Light 4-packs on sale right now. On sale right now at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. All right, so go grab your 4-packs. Got some in the door when you walk in. It's going to be on the right-hand side. There's some in the door. Otherwise, go straight to the back in the cooler back there, and they got more over there, too. So load up for deer camp this weekend. Maybe you're heading to camp Thursday night or Friday, whatever the case may be. Maybe some of you are already getting ready to go up there. I don't know. But load up with some Man Cave Lights, where you can pick it up at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. I was kind of curious because I had a bad week, I think, of picking some games here for this week. I was kind of curious where the leaderboard is right now. Yeah, I fell down the 5th, tied up with Brandon now. But Tony and Tim, we've got a tie for first place right now. Tony and Tim sitting there tied for first. Garrett still in second place, just 2 back. Things getting a little bit interesting at the top there. Darren in third by himself with a 98. Henry, 97. James, Brandon, Peter, Keith, and myself, 5th at 96. But yeah, I had a bad weekend. Quick question from this is from excuse me, this is from Aaron on our texting line here. I know it's a little bit off topic, but Kasper, how do you see this offseason playing out for the Packers? Who gets let go? Who comes back from a coaching standpoint? Matt LaFleur's coming back. Whether you like it or not, Matt LaFleur's coming back. I don't think Joe Barry's coming back. I think he gets let go. I do think you're going to see some defensive assistants also being let go. I think you're going to see that kind of maybe a revamp of the entire defensive unit. So I think you're going to see that. I do wonder about Adam Stenovich, offensive coordinator. I do wonder if he returns. And does Matt LaFleur maybe look for maybe a veteran type of offensive coordinator, guy who's has had experience as an offensive coordinator, or does he go on because I mean, not too often do you see maybe a former offensive line coach be promoted to offensive coordinator. Does he go maybe try to find like a quarterback coach or something like that to be that offensive coordinator? I don't know, but I question. I'm not that one's I'm about 50-50 on whether he's going to be back next year. And who knows with Rich Bisaccia, maybe he gets a head coaching job somewhere. Does he get that opportunity? He was a finalist, it sounds like, with the Colts. Colts did, 2 or 3 interviews with him last year? I know some people were talking about, hey, could he go back to the Raiders? But, I mean, Antonio Pierce right now is 2-0 as their head ball coach. So, but yeah, Matt LaFleur is going to be back next year. Right now, if I had to take out my own crystal ball, I don't think Joe Barry will be back next year. And I think you might see kind of a few assistants also being let go on the defensive side of things. Now, if you were to appreciate the question, by the way, I like these type of questions. I don't know where you would potentially look like, defensive coordinator free agents out there. I'm sure some people are going to say Lovie Smith or Mike Zimmer or, guys like that. I will say, Mike Smith and Lovie Smith or Mike Zimmer and Lovie Smith, you do have to change your defense from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Does that take away, or does that kind of pigeonhole some of the players you currently have on your roster and put them in roles where they're not as effective or not as good? You can get in that whole debate there. But, I also think you take a look at, okay, where are or who have, the top defenses right now in the league, and do you try to bring in maybe an assistant coach from that staff to try to emulate that style? I joked about it earlier in the season And honestly, I still wouldn't be surprised if this was gonna be the case, and it's gonna piss off a lot of Packers fans. But if Brandon Staley gets fired from the Chargers, I would not be surprised if LaFleur hires him as defensive coordinator. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the move that he makes, and it's gonna piss off a lot of people. It is rightfully so, and honestly, I'm probably gonna be there with you because what in the world? You're looking at the Chargers and that defense and all that. I'm just like, ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I want me some of that. And maybe he would be better suited as just a defensive coordinator and not just as the head coach. I mean, he was pretty solid with the Rams in his 1 year over there, but I don't know. I mean, your top defensive teams, and again, this isn't where numbers tell you everything. I think they tell you a little bit. And on Fridays, we kind of go where each team ranks in terms of total offense, passing yards per game, rushing yards per game, just to kind of give you a glimpse of what these teams have been doing this year. But they don't tell the whole story because right now, if you look at it defensively, yards allowed per game, Green Bay is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th. All right. But Cleveland, I mean, the job that Jim Schwartz has been doing has been fantastic. And it seems like wherever he's been a defensive coordinator, that's a guy, as an example of he's probably a better coordinator than as a head coach. And he had some good years in Detroit. Don't get me wrong. Was it 14? Or was it 11? No, it was 11 that they had 12. I can't remember, but a couple times there. But he was defense coordinator for Philly when they won Super Bowl. He's got Cleveland playing really well. Do you look at teams like that again? San Francisco's top 5 in terms of yards allowed. When you look at points per game, Baltimore's up there. I think the one defensive coordinator, though, I will say, the one defensive coordinator that is, I think he would be a free agent, quote unquote free agent, that I would be kind of intrigued with. Now, I think they would have to potentially change up their style of defense a little bit. Leslie Frazier, he stepped away from being the Bills defensive coordinator this past offseason. We saw him with Minnesota, Tampa Bay there for a little bit. Then, Buffalo, the defensive coordinator the last couple of years. I don't know. Would that be an option? I know he spent some time with Green Bay. He was kind of making a tour around training camps this preseason, this offseason and such. And he made a quick stop over in Green Bay. I don't know. I don't know if that would be an option, if that's a solid option, a good option over there too. But yeah, it's kind of hard to pinpoint right now who. I'd like to see. I know some people are going to say Rex Ryan. I mean, do you want to bring in a coordinator, a guy that hasn't been in the league for how many years right now? Do you want to go that route? Do you want to bring in a guy that, it's been a while since he's been a coach? Do you want to do that? Or do you want to go with, maybe a hot and up and coming position coach like, Bobby Slowick with the Texans? I think right now, offensive coordinator Slowick, and if that name sounds familiar, you'd be correct because his dad used to be defensive coordinator for the Packers, 2004, I believe. That was off the top of my head. But yeah, Bobby graduated high school, I think, in Green Bay. So he's a Green Bay kid, but I'm sure he's going to get some head coaching names because, it's the young hotshot offensive coordinator, doing a lot with maybe a little. Got to get those head coaching interviews in. And that's not to take away what Slowick is doing in Houston, but, he comes over from San Francisco, gets the offensive coordinator job. Dude is younger than me, and he's having some major. He is I think a big part of why Houston and C.J. Stroud are having some darn good success. And is that what you're trying to find for your next defensive coordinator potentially? That position coach, but he's got a high ceiling over there. Maybe potentially, but I hope that answers your question. I don't think Joe Barry's back. I don't think he's back. Matt LaFleur is back. I do think some defensive assistants are going to be let go as part of that kind of a remake of everything in there. And then Rich Bisaccia, I think, is just going to fully depend on whether he gets a head coaching job somewhere. If a team wants to bring him in, kind of, and I don't know who that team would be right now, to be honest with you. I don't think he'd go back to the Raiders, and I don't think the Raiders would bring him back. It would have to be a team though like the Raiders where it was just a complete mess, and then you kind of maybe need to bring in a guy that's got kind of like a players coach, but got the respect of the players sort of thing. I don't know where that would be right now off the top of my head. So, but hopefully that answered your question over there. Yeah, I have this bad feeling in my stomach that it's going to be Brandon Staley as a defensive coordinator next year for the Packers. I don't know. I've had that feeling for the last few weeks now. All right, let's switch over here to a little hoops chat really quick. We had a couple texts I didn't get to from some Bucks fans here a little bit. This was a text from Luke. Luke's saying about the Bucks. It's only 9 games in, but you're right. The defensive play so far from the Milwaukee Bucks has been a little bit of a head scratcher here. Hopefully, it's just something that they're still working, on chemistry and working together, and the defense will improve as the season gets going here. That is probably the one big thing. I know we went through some of the rankings defensively and such, and I could bring them back up here if we get to it. But I think we all knew heading into the season, Drew Holiday gone is going to affect your defense and in a not a good way. Your defense is going to suffer a little bit. We knew that. But I also think we thought, okay, you're bringing in Adrian Griffin, first time head coach. He's known for defense. And it's been a slow start defensively. It's been a slow start. I'd like to see that get better, improve it. And remember, was it a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, where players already apparently went to Adrian Griffin to talk about adjusting defensive scheme, and then Brooke Lopez follows that up with like what was it, 8 blocks? I think it's going to be a little bit of a give and take with this thing. Coach wants to do one thing. Players maybe feel like, hey, we're better suited for this. Let's meet in the middle, sort of thing. I mean, right now, you want to look at Minnesota Timberwolves, have the lowest or the top defensive team. Yeah, right now they are. Milwaukee's towards the bottom. The only teams worse than Milwaukee right now in defensive ratings: Washington, Indiana, San Antonio, Charlotte, Utah. T-Wolves, number one right now. Offensively too, I think the other thing I would point out for the Bucks, and this is just 9 games in of an 82-game season, but just we got to go off of what we've seen so far. I really hope Chris Middleton is close to, kind of getting off the minutes to use a football term now, I guess we could say, is pitch count, because that's all it's out there. Snap count, whatever. What are we going to call it for basketball? Like a minutes count? I know there's proper ones out there, but I'm just trying to have a little fun with this. But I would like, hopefully soon, that Middleton is going to be off that minutes restriction. And then maybe we can get some more offensive production, some consistent offensive production from him, because these last 2 games where we haven't had Damian Lillard for the Bucks, Giannis has been filling in for the offensive side of things, but it's just been Giannis and not really anybody else. Yeah, we've had a few scores going double-digit scoring, but not on a consistent rate, not that next go-to player. And I think we need Middleton. He's got to get in that game shape. I know he's still working back, and off-season knee surgery, only played in 1 preseason game, and that was the last one. And they got that surgical knee management, however they're phrasing it. But if Dame's missing time or Giannis is missing time, right now they don't have that consistent third scoring option to kind of fill in there. It's got to be Middleton. I hope it's Middleton, but I think right now, because he's on that minutes restriction, it's affecting his offensive production so far. And hopefully he starts to clear some more hurdles. I mean, the last few games here, he's been getting 20 minutes. Orlando, he played 20. Pacers, he played 20. Brooklyn, 21. The Knicks, 21. And he's putting up, his last game's 10, 19, 15, 12. But you would hope with more minutes comes maybe a more offensive production, consistent offensive production. So, I don't know. They'll try to end this losing streak. Coming up at the at tip-off tonight, going up against the Chicago Bulls. Back at home, where the Bucks are 4-1 so far on the season. 4 of their 5 wins, all coming in the friendly confines of the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. Badger-wise, though, too, just I know I mentioned a little bit earlier, but since we're on the hoops talk, I do want to give a shout out or chat a little bit about Badger hoops here. So that big game Friday night going up against Tennessee. Tennessee coming to the Kohl Center, 9th ranked team in the country. The Badgers coming off their season opening win against Arkansas State, where they dropped over 100 points. And I mean, I wasn't expecting, I didn't pick the Badgers to win this game, but I was like, okay, early test, very early test for this team. A team that I thought, and I still think, has some intriguing players here. It was an 80-70 loss by the Badgers. But I'm gonna keep saying this kid's name because I said it before the season. I said it as the season started, and I'm gonna say it again. AJ Storr. I'm excited to see this kid throughout this whole season. And he's still young. He was a freshman transfer, played all freshman Big East last year for St. John's. He comes in here and he drops 17 points against Tennessee. I'm excited to see this kid throughout the rest of this season. You had 4 Badgers in double figure scoring. Tyler Wall 10, Stephen Krull 14, Chucky Hepburn put up 13. But then after that, there wasn't a whole lot. Max had 8. Not a ton of bench production after that. John Blackwell only played 9 minutes in the game. He's a freshman that, I'm excited for the future of too, but this AJ Storr kid, he's just something different than what the Badgers have had in the last few years. A 6'7" guard. 6'7", perimeter player that could go inside, outside. Early returns, he looks really good. And I think he's going to get better throughout the rest of the season. And I'm excited to see him, for the next couple of years here too with the Badgers. I think him, if Blackwell continues to get some minutes coming off the bench here, that's another guard, 6'4" guard. Yeah. That AJ kid, though, I'm excited to see him the rest of the season. Badger basketball, by the way, I got a game coming up tomorrow night going up against Providence. So another good test coming up here for the Badgers. Then they got the Fort Myers tip-off tournament that begins next week. They got a game against Robert Morris before then, but the Fort Myers tip-off begins next Monday, where they take on Virginia, the Net Marquette game at the Kohl Center, December 2nd. That should be a good one. Then they got Michigan State right after that too. So, and then Arizona. So, they got a tough schedule all the way up before Christmas. I'm good with that. Let's give them some good tests right away. Hopefully it'll pay due when you get later in the season, February into March. Right? All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll close up things here this morning. Wrap it up. What is it? Oh, we've got Packers Hall of Fame inductees. One's a big one. Wrapping things up here this morning. We'll have another episode of the Man Cave Podcast up later on this morning. The Man Cave Podcast brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford out there. Shout out to them. We've got new members of the Packers Hall of Fame class. Aaron Campman and Clay Matthews. Both defensive players heading into the Packers Hall of Fame. Already announcing it. That banquet is scheduled not until August of 2024, August 29th of 2024. But if you are a big, maybe Aaron Campman fan or Clay Matthews fan, or if your significant other is a big Clay Matthews fan like mine is, you might want to schedule, August 24th for you over there. So, or August 29th, excuse me, of next year to go to that banquet. I'm assuming those tickets might go fast whenever they do go up for sale there. But that's your new Packers Hall of Fame class. Going with two defenders over there. I will say this: we got to get James Jones in there soon, though. Okay, we gotta get him in. He deserves to be in the Packers Hall of Fame. He's not in there yet. But he will be. He's got to be in there at some point, right? He's got to be in there at some point. So, but yeah, there you got that. That dropped already this morning. I don't know if that's normal timing or not. It seems kind of early-ish over there. Guys, I'm just saying, you want to maybe have a nice present for your wife? Take her to Clay Matthews Hall of Fame banquet so she can see Clay Matthews maybe one more time in person. Just saying, I might be tipping what I might be doing for a gift. I don't know. Okay, what else do we got on the docket here? We got the Bucks in action. You can check that game out. Listen to that game tonight, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. A little bit of a later game for the Bucks going up against the Chicago Bulls. Tip time for that game is at 7 p.m. But the coverage will begin around 6:30. Pregame coverage. Again, game is just on the radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Not a lot of updates, rumors surrounding the managerial search for the Milwaukee Brewers. Mike Schultz, we were talking about that from Bob Nightingale, USA Today. If the Padres don't hire him, Brewers have their eye on him potentially, but still seriously considering promoting Pat Murphy to that role, to that manager role. I can't remember if it's today or if it's tomorrow. I think it's today. Early part of this week, Craig Counsell will be introduced as the manager for the Chicago Cubbies. If you care for that sort of thing, or maybe Cubs fans will care for that sort of thing, I wouldn't expect any Counsell spilling any beans about the Brewers or anything like that. I wouldn't expect that. So, but yeah, if you're curious to maybe get that presser, get some comments or whatever from Counsell. Let me just double check it. I think it's today or tomorrow. It's yep, today. It is today. So time will be at 10 a.m. All right, so a little over an hour from now. The manager for the Chicago Cubs, Craig Counsell, still freaking weird. Still freaking weird to say that. So what else do we got on the docket here this morning? Obviously, we talked a lot of Packers and Badgers. I think there's a lot of frustration amongst both Badgers and Packers fans right now with their respective football teams right now. Badgers with that another second straight week with a bad loss, this time against Northwestern, 24-10. Saw some pictures. I wasn't at the game on Saturday, but I saw some pictures of a lot of people leaving early right after jump around. I know Northwestern. Did I say Nebraska? I apologize, Northwestern. But I saw Northwestern was having a little fun on Twitter, quoting jump around and celebrating the win there. So, hey, don't like it, beat them. Then they won't do that. But just two more games coming up here for the Badgers. Nebraska is this weekend, and then Minnesota, the Axe game, coming up next Saturday. So, Packers, they'll have the high, powerful offense of the Chargers coming to Lambeau Field this Sunday. Can they slow down that offense of Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler? Can the Badgers or can the Packers? See, I'm mixing up Badgers and Packers because really, is there a big main difference between these two right now? But can the Packers offense put up a bunch of points against this Chargers defense that can give up a bunch of points, as we just saw again against the Lions yesterday? Yeah, it's going to be tough here in the next few weeks. It's going to be tough here for the next few weeks here if you're a Packers fan and the Packers. Chargers at Detroit, short week, Thanksgiving, then Kansas City right after that. This is okay. I'll just come out and say this. I'll probably get haggled for it. But if Joe Barry's defense, if the defense and Joe Barry stop the Chargers, the Lions, and the Chiefs, and I know the Chiefs' offense hasn't been like the Chiefs' offense that we've become accustomed to. But if they stop the Chargers and they stop the Lions and they stop Travis Swift and Patrick Mahomes, yes, in case anybody didn't catch the joke there, but that almost saved Joe Barry's job. I'm not saying I agree with it, but there's a part of me in my head be like, okay, if he does that, if that defense goes out there and they ball out, does that almost save his job? Like last year where the defense played better at the end of the season, and you kind of wonder, did that save his job? But if he goes out there and they slow down, and then, the follow-up would be, okay, what do they do against the Giants and Tampa Bay and Carolina, Minnesota, and Chicago? Because if they allow a bunch of yards over there, then it shouldn't. And you're exactly right. But what if all of a sudden now the defense starts playing incredibly well, where they're not allowing any points and they're turning the ball over, forcing turnovers, from now to the rest, and that includes the Chargers, Detroit, and Kansas City on there. Oh, I think if you're a Packers fan and you really want Joe Barry gone, like for every ounce of you, you might really just want some poor defensive performances to force the issue a little bit. You might want that. It wouldn't totally surprise me. Oof. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough these next couple of weeks. We'll break it down all throughout the week here. Matt LaFleur will be talking to the media today. Don't think there was any major injuries from the game yesterday. So, but hopefully we'll maybe get an update on Jair Alexander. It sounds like it won't be an IR stint for Jair with that shoulder injury that he's got going on that kept him out of the game yesterday. So, I mean, really, the corners, they gave up a couple passes, but Kenny Pickett threw the ball 23 times. He didn't have to throw the ball. He didn't really have to test the corners. I mean, isn't that really disappointing to say that your top two corners, and I'm not trying to pick on these guys, Corey Valentine and Ballentine, those were your top two corners. Pittsburgh didn't have to go after him that much. They didn't have to test him that much. Why? Because they were able to run the freaking football. That's kind of disheartening. You kind of thought, okay, yeah, they're going to go after a 7th-round rookie and Corey, who's been, up and down practice squad. That's your top two. They didn't even have to go after him and pick on him that much because they were having so much success running the football because you'd have 2 down linemen. Doesn't that just kind of hurt? Just maybe makes things a little bit more irritating. Like if Kenny Pickett went out there and threw 40 times for 300 yards, 280, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, look at the corners. He threw 23 times because he didn't have to. They didn't have to attack the major weakness on that Packers team. And well, maybe they did. Their major weakness is the run defense. It was awful. I mean, that first half, it looked like, are you kidding me right now? What, the Steelers averaged 16.6 points per game or something like that, and they put up 17 right away in the first half. Gosh. Wow. All right, DP and the Danettes, they're up next tomorrow morning. it is. Don't forget What's Your Beef Tuesday. So give me your best beefs. Because if you do, and you got a good one, and we pick it, you're going to get a free hot beef or a hot ham sandwich or a ham sandwich from the famous Ray's Place. And we're going to be at Ray's Wednesday for an episode of the Man Cave Podcast at noon, too. Have a good rest of your Monday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6. Chat with you then.